So, because Rouge, or anybody else for that matter, seemed to not really care about explaining Shadow's past to him in Sonic Heroes, we have an entire game focusing on that instead, Shadow the Hedgehog. Like many people, when the first ever trailer debuted for this game, I seriously thought this was an April Fool's joke. The concept was just so absurd. Shadow the Hedgehog packing heat? What? Why? What's the deal with the whole renegade or hero gimmick? Didn't Heroes establish that he's at most an anti-hero? Look at him in the intro of Team Dark Story. He rescues Rouge from Omega's opening assault. Oh, such a renegade. The game's very existence just seemed ridiculous to me. Who the hell asked for this? Yeah, Shadow became popular in the Sonic universe, but did anybody seriously wanted this? Well, despite how silly the game looked, I ended up buying it anyway. I mean, who knows? Despite its questionable premise, this could be a fun game in its own right, and at the end of the day, that's what matters most, right? But before we head into the game, however, let's start with the plot. The journey begins with Shadow staring into the horizon. Shadow begins to question about his past and who exactly this Maria character is, but before he could potentially get the idea to just ask Rouge or anybody else for that matter, aliens. As the aliens begin to run amok through the city, the leader of the group, Black Doom, confronts Shadow and tells him to deliver the Chaos Emeralds as promised. Shadow, realistically, has no idea what the fuck he's talking about, but instead of Black Doom answering to his suspicions, he just disappears, causing some random explosions around Shadow. With no idea what to do or who to rely on, except these guys, Shadow makes it his goal to collect the Chaos Emeralds and find the answers to his past. At this point, the whole good and evil thing comes to play. Each stage contains multiple missions that correspond to a different allegiance: dark, neutral, or hero. Depending on your choice, your pathway will branch into a different direction, leading not only to a different stage, but also to a different ending when your pathway is complete. So, it's up to you. Do you ally yourself with Black Doom and take over the world? Do you go solo, remain neutral throughout the game? Or will you team up with the good guys and put an end to Black Doom's scheme? Well folks, in the end that doesn't mean a goddamn thing, because there's a last story segment that has Shadow ultimately stop Black Doom's plans and save the world from what's possibly the worst story device ever to rear its head into the franchise, making the entire concept of the game entirely worthless. Why did they do that? I mean, why make us think our choices matter in the grand scheme of things and then completely nullify it with a last story segment that's officially canon to the Sonic universe? I mean, what about the people that wanted an evil Shadow the Hedgehog? Don't those people's choices matter too? What's even worse is that even without the final story segment, Shadow the Hedgehog's story is all over the place. Depending on your choices, Shadow could be an evil tyrant, an outright douchebag, your typical anti-hero, a confused creature that seriously thinks he's a robot, or a heroic hedgehog. To top it all off, there's no consistency whatsoever. There's one point where you could deliberately disobey Black Doom multiple times for various reasons, but the following cutscenes act like Shadow never betrayed Black Doom in the first place. Then there are a lot of times where certain plot elements are introduced in the beginning of a pathway, but depending on your actions, a lot of these plot elements are just completely forgotten. Take the neutral pathway for example. We have the beginning with Black Doom, and we're introduced to the commander of Gun, who has a vendetta against Shadow. But by the end of the neutral pathway, these two characters are completely forgotten with no closure whatsoever, and instead we have a moping Shadow wondering if he's actually a robot. There are 10 possible non-canon endings, but each individual story to reach those endings are either just plain bad, an incoherent mess, or just flat out uninteresting. With all that in mind, and with careful consideration, I'm not even going to bother with a complete plot summary. There's absolutely no point to it. Who cares if Shadow follows Black Doom? Who cares if he thinks he's a robot? Why care at all? The game certainly doesn't, because Shadow saves the day in the end anyway, so why should I care about my overall morality and the consequences of my actions if they mean nothing? That's not even covering my thoughts on the characters themselves. Who the hell is Black Doom and why should I care? Apparently he helped Gerald Robotnik create Shadow on the Ark 50 years ago in exchange for the emeralds. Gerald, because he knew Black Doom would use the emeralds for evil purposes, created the Eclipse cannon to wipe out Black Doom and his vessel, the Black Comet, when he returned in the next 50 years. But where did Black Doom come from? How did he find out about the emeralds in the first place? How did these two strike a deal in the first place? For what reason would Black Doom need Gerald's help to find the emeralds in the first place? Is he lazy? Well, the game never explains any of that, he's just there. I guess it's because of Gerald's deal with Black Doom that the military intervened and shut down the Ark, killing all the researchers in the process, including Maria. But even then, why didn't Gerald just tell the military, the people who funded all the research to begin with, that an evil alien race was on the verge of returning in 50 years to wipe out all of humanity? Secondly, who the hell is this gun commander? Apparently he was a child aboard the Ark 50 years ago who not only saw the creation of Shadow the Hedgehog, but he was also good friends with Maria, and he personally blames Shadow for the military raid and causing Maria's death. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was just the military officials who put the bullet in Maria's back. But to make matters even more confusing, he's the commander of Gun, the same people who killed his best friend Maria in the first place. Not only that, but if he's had a personal vendetta against Shadow for quite a long time now, then why was Sonic arrested in Adventure 2 to begin with? The story is full of all sorts of retcons and inconsistencies. The moon! Look at the moon! Wasn't it blown in half in Adventure 2? Are we just gonna ignore that now? The fucking moon was blown in half! But I think the biggest problem of them all is in the last story. During the final confrontation between Shadow and Black Doom, Team Chaotix managed to retrieve an old video feed of Geralt Robotnik in the Ark, who explains to Shadow that he developed the Eclipse Cannon for the purpose of destroying Black Doom and his army. When Shadow saves the day, the military and the president change their minds about Geralt Robotnik and claim that they were wrong about him and they should honor his legacy. Hello? This is the same man who programmed the Ark to fall into the earth as retaliation for the military killing his granddaughter. Yeah, sure, Gunn was still wrong for doing so, but this man was going to wipe out all of humanity as an act of revenge. He's no saint. He shouldn't be honored. Why was this story necessary in the first place? There was no need for this. Did they purposely not have Rouge or anybody else tell Shadow about his past just so we can have this game? Who the hell cares about Shadow's past at this point? Didn't Sonic Adventure 2 have enough of that already? Yeah, I wanted a little more reason for why the military raided the Ark in the first place, but fucking aliens? This isn't even in the so bad it's good category. This is just plain awful. I don't care about the voice acting. I don't care that the characters are suddenly swearing, although I will say that's a pathetic attempt at trying to make the game edgy. And I certainly don't care about the major villain in the game, Black Doom. So, with the story, if you can call it that, out of the way, let's get into the gameplay. Now, if I could credit Shadow the Hedgehog for one thing, there's only one gameplay style to talk about, which makes it easier on me when reviewing it. The team mechanic from Sonic Heroes is gone, it's just Shadow from beginning to end. Okay, so in terms of what Shadow can do, well, he can pretty much do everything he could do in Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Heroes, except the somersault and the rocket excel. That's no longer here, but the spin dash is back, and it's not really useful. You can only perform it while standing still, and because of that, it's not as fun to use as it was in Adventure 1 or Adventure 2, but it is better than the rocket excel, that's most important. But the biggest addition to gameplay here is guns, or weapons in general to be a little more precise. By defeating a certain enemy or by smashing conveniently placed crates, Shadow can equip himself with a weapon to help take out enemies. The type of weapon varies from level to level, but most of the time it's guns like your average semi-automatic pistol, laser guns, or bazookas. To be honest guys, while I find the mere concept of Shadow using firearms just plain ridiculous, the gunplay in this game is actually not that bad. Enemies are once again rocking health bars like in Sonic Heroes, but with a weapon, enemies go down real easily. Shadow can still take out enemies the traditional way, such as jumping on them or using the homing attack, but the game really wants you to use weapons, and they work rather well. I especially get a kick out of the vacuum gun, an homage to Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg. Is that game any good? Anyway. I just wish guns had a manual lock-on function. The auto-aiming works well enough, but for certain guns, mainly bazookas and rocket launchers, I wish the game tapped into its inner ocarina at a time to have some sort of manual lock-on feature. But in case you're not packing heat and for some reason don't feel like using the homing attack, Shadow also has basic punches and kicks. And they're shit! Seriously people, don't use these attacks, they're worthless. Piss poor damage and piss poor range. Plastered in some stages are vehicles that Shadow can ride. Don't. Please. Shadow's not only naturally faster than all these vehicles, but the control and traction on these things are remarkably clunky. I'd rather be in Eggman's Mac and Adventure 2. Finally, Shadow has two special abilities, Chaos Control and Chaos Blast. By destroying enemies of a certain allegiance, you slowly build up the corresponding meter. When the meter is maxed out, you can activate the special ability by pressing the Y button, assuming you're playing the GameCube version. If you take out anything that represents the good side, you'll feel your evil energy, and if you destroy anything evil, you'll fill up your good energy. When your evil energy is maxed out, Shadow can perform the Chaos Blast, destroying anything caught in the huge explosion. When your good energy is maxed out, Shadow can perform Chaos Control, allowing him to zip by a large chunk of the stage. Chaos Control, though, really isn't that useful unless your current mission only requires you to reach a goal ring. If you're trying to kill a certain amount of enemies or objects to complete a mission, then zipping past the stage is the last thing you want to do. The best part of the Chaos powers, however, is that when your meter is filled up, Shadow is not only completely impervious to attack, but he also has infinite ammo until the meter runs out. Screw Chaos Blast and screw Chaos Control, infinite ammo is where it's at. I can shoot like a goddamn madman with an overly large Gatling gun, and it'll provide better results than a measly explosion attack. So, Shadow's a pretty capable hedgehog in terms of combat, but in terms of control, I swear it's worse than Sonic Heroes. Shadow's always moving like he's on ice, especially at high speeds, and maybe it's just me, but even the basic tasks like jumping from platform to platform feels pretty sluggish. Speed? Well, unless it's a scripted loop, a straight pathway with no obstacles or rail grinding, you're not getting any in this game. For about 80% of the game, I'm just carefully tapping the analog stick, tackling the hordes of enemies that block my path with a carefully timed homing attack or shooting them with a gun. Shadow the Hedgehog is considered a spin-off game, but I assure you, in addition to having a plot that's part of the official canon, it's a 3D Sonic game, people. I already mentioned that Shadow could do pretty much everything he could do in the previous games, but besides that, there's loops to run through, rings to collect, power-ups to help defend yourself, dash panels to do the work for you. Everything you will find in the adventure games and Sonic Heroes, well, in Sonic stages anyway, is all here and accounted for. Not including the last story level, Shadow the Hedgehog contains a total of 22 levels. Now there are 22 levels, but a single playthrough will only have you travel through 6 stages, depending on your allegiance. Your journey will always begin in Westopolis, where you can either just head to the goal ring and continue being neutral, help Sonic take out all the aliens in the area to be good, or take out all the gun troops in the area to be evil. If you want to reach a particular stage, you need to complete the correct mission in the previous stage in order to reach it. So if you want to go higher up on the grid, you need to complete the correct dark mission, and if you want to go lower on the grid, then you gotta complete a hero mission. The actual mission varies from stage to stage, but most of the time, unless you're going neutral, your allegiance will require you to find or destroy a certain amount of objects. Remember the Chaotix missions in Sonic Heroes? It's kinda like that, only it could be much, much worse. When you complete 6 stages, you'll get one of 10 endings, depending on your pathway and depending on what mission you completed in the last stage, which can be the difference between Shadow saving the world from Black Doom, or switching to Black Doom's side at the very last possible second just to be a dick to Sonic. Okay, so you got one ending. How do you get the other one you missed out on? Well, it's simple. Instead of just picking the stage on the stage select screen and complete the other mission for the other ending, you have to start over from Westopolis, complete 6 stages again just to get to the stage you got to the last time, and pick the other mission to get the other ending. So, in order to complete Shadow the Hedgehog, you need to tackle a total of 60 missions, 6 for each ending. How do you get to the 10 endings is all up to you, but regardless of such, this means you have to play Westopolis 10 fucking times, because like I said, you have to begin your journey anew when you want to go for the other ending. Oh my god, what kind of bullshit, stupid, asinine, redundant method of padding the game out is that? I thought it was bad with Sonic Heroes, but that doesn't even compare to this. Oh, why does this game have a last story segment? Can I just be fine with completing the game once and be happy with the ending I get? No, I can't, because not only does my pathway story suck ass, I know that my story isn't legit because of this fucking thing. Now, if you're absolutely fine with just completing 6 stages and getting a completely half-ass ending, then I seriously hope you didn't pay full price for this game. You are ripping yourself off by the fuckload. But even then, completing the game itself is just an enormous chore. You just can't win. My favorite pathway is the neutral pathway. Wanna know why? Because all I have to do is get to the goal ring and bam, on to the next stage. Point A to point B. That's the way I like it in a Sonic game. Only problem is that the story is absolute horseshit. Seriously, Shadow Android? And I have to play it twice to technically get both endings at the end of the pathway. But that's not the whole package. Gotta play those Dark and Hero missions, and most of the time they're a pain. Now, there are those rare moments where the Dark and Hero mission is just getting to the goal ring, but why can't they all be like this? In fact, why couldn't Shadow the Hedgehog let us travel through all these levels in one single playthrough? Screw the morality, screw the multiple endings, just make it one giant adventure with a cohesive story and I'm all good. Most of the time, the Hero and Dark missions require you to find and destroy a certain amount of objects. There's so much of this sprinkled throughout your 10 playthroughs of this game, and it sucks the life out of me. Westopolis, for example, requires you to locate and knock out every gun soldier in the area if you want to continue towards the Dark side, but the Hero side requires you to kill every alien on the stage. And if it isn't aliens to hunt down or gun troops to shoot, it's shit like collecting top secret discs or bombs to activate. I hate shit like this. You know what really would have made this less painful? A radar, or at the very least, a map. Instead, we have to manually search for everything in these stages, and when the level design is particularly confusing or just absolute shit, it can take forever. Take stages like Lost Impact, where you have to destroy every artificial chaos in the stage to complete the hero mission. Every single one. But what really makes it bad is the level itself. It's so confusing, it's so slow, and it's so boring. But you know what? You technically don't even have to touch Lost Impact to get to the true hero pathway. No. You just gotta play the other levels you already played like 6 fucking times to ignore it. This game structure is bullshit. If it's not completing missions that are just so goddamn dull, it's dealing with the monotony of replaying the same stages over and over again and fighting the same bosses repeatedly just to avoid the stages you don't want to play to get every ending to reach the last story segment. I don't feel like killing all the aliens in Westopolis, but I want to get to the true hero path sooner or later, so, I'll just complete the neutral mission in Westopolis and do the hero mission in the next stage, Glyphic Canyon, to get myself on the right track. Okay, I got the gold ring in Westopolis, and here I am in Glyphic Canyon, so let's do the hero mission, and I have to kill a large amount of aliens anyway? Even then, more than when I had to kill in Westopolis? Oh, God. It also doesn't help that the overall level design and aesthetics are just incredibly uninspired. A lot of levels in this game just look bleak, complete with uninteresting textures with zero appeal whatsoever. There are times where I could maybe squint my eyes and convince myself that I'm playing something related to Sonic the Hedgehog, but the game likes to constantly remind me that it's hardcore and bright colors are for pussies. Look at all this fucking purple and gray. This is a man's game about a superpowered 3-foot hedgehog. Look at Shadow go. Yeah, ride that slow-moving block. Look at all these pretty streaks of light in a sequence that only requires me to tilt the analog stick at certain points. Watch as Shadow travel at a high speed with no input required from the player, and observe as Shadow falls slowly toward the ground all the damn time. Behold as the terrible controls require me to slowly inch my way through each level to avoid running into shit or running off a cliff. Witness how some missions require you to attack members of your own allegiance, complete with your ally scolding you for doing so. For fuck's sake, this game is horrible!
This blue sky, staring at it from afar. Have I seen it before?
I can't even enjoy the music. It's so damn forgettable with 3 exceptions. The opening theme, which plays during the intro, which is at best alright, and the true ending music, Never Turn Back by Crush 40, is the best piece of music in this game, bar none. The only other song I remember is Westopolis, but only because I had to play the stage 10 fucking times in order to get every ending. The music just isn't catchy, or in my opinion, not well constructed. It just all blends in, and if you were to ask me to identify a song from a particular stage, I honestly wouldn't be able to do it. The graphics themselves aren't really that impressive either. The character models of Shadow and company are ripped right out of Sonic Heroes, and human characters like the President, the Gun Commander, and this Eldritch abomination just look terrible. The human animations are severely stiff and very awkward, and overall, it's just not a pretty game to look at. I blame games like Metroid Prime and Resident Evil 4 for spoiling me, I guess. Yeah, that's probably not a fair comparison, but I'm just saying that Shadow the Hedgehog, as a game released late in the 6th generation, looks barely above a Dreamcast title. It took a lot out of me to record footage for this game, more than any other Sonic game I reviewed so far, because I'm not just going to review one single playthrough. No, I wanted to make sure I got everything captured, and I gotta tell you, by the 4th playthrough, I was absolutely bored and tired of this game. I play video games to have a good time, either by myself or with a group of friends, but Shadow the Hedgehog offers nothing to me. Nothing. When it's not frustrating me with its absolutely horrible structure, it's putting me to sleep with its level design, forgettable music, lame-ass story, bleak graphics, and the fact that I have to play certain levels over and over again just to avoid the really shitty missions. When I play a game that not only do I think is terrible, but just outright boring, there's only so much I can talk about, guys. I drank coffee, I ate a proper breakfast, I listened to all sorts of podcasts just to keep my mind active when playing this game. I bought this game with very low expectations. I mean, how could anyone think a Sonic game with a premise like this could possibly be good? Shadow the Hedgehog doesn't even meet those low expectations. It's a void, where nothing happens and nothing matters. This is one game I'm never touching again, until I have to play it for the Let's Play channel anyway. Well, at least the video wasn't very long. I mean, there's only so much you can rant and bitch about without coming off as an immature fuckwad. Shadow the Hedgehog is just way too much of a boring, bleak, uninteresting game to really spend a long time harping on. Hell, I didn't even mention multiplayer, which is also completely uninteresting. This game really has nothing going for it. Well, there's only one game left to go. You guys all know what's coming up next, so I'll see you guys then. Oh, and Shadow is not actually a robot either. If you spend 9 minutes in the final fight with Devil Doom, Eggman will contact Shadow and let him know that he's the exact same one from Adventure 2. There you go. Why would they make us wait that long to tie up a loose end from Sonic Heroes?